Welcome to the Foundation Podcast. We're the Lorehounds, your guides to psychohistory. I'm David.
I'm John, and this is our coverage of the Apple TV Plus original series Foundation.
In this podcast, we're going to do a scene-by-scene breakdown of Season 2, Episode 6, Why the Gods Made Wine.
Be sure to stick around to the end of the podcast for programming notes about our podcasting schedule for August and September.
For early and ad-free access to all of our podcast and exclusive content, visit us at patreon.com/thelorehounds. And if you're enjoying our content and want to give us a leg up, consider leaving a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts. Ratings and reviews help other people find our podcast, even on the lonely wastes of Terminus.
We love to respond to your questions, thoughts, and theories on air, so send us feedback for the next episode.
Send emails to empire@thelorehounds.com or head over to our website, and there you can use our voicemail feature or the contact form, and we can get those messages no problem. You can also post a message on our Discord server, and occasionally we cruise through there, pick up a few interesting missives, and we can put those into our feedback as well. There are links in the show notes for all of those resources. John,
David.
Episode 6. Can you
This was
believe
my
it?
favorite episode of Foundation ever.
Seriously?
Full stop. My favorite
Wow.
ever.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was the best packed episode, full of answers and new questions and weird things that made me think about the nature of my reality. And it was wild, and I loved it. I watched this episode and I was blown the fuck away.
Really?
I was just blown away.
Wow.
And people were talking about how much they liked episode 5. Well, I'm watching this and I'm thinking they are going to love episode 6 because it is so good.
Interesting. Do you have any specifics you want to get into? We got some
I don't
chat,
know
or do you
what
want to
it
save
was.
it for the...
I mean, just so much happened. I mean, you have Hari, you know, whatever the hell is happening with him.
Mm-hmm.
You have this whole musing over what do you need in a second Foundation. You have Gaal kind of making moves. You have the really cool water scene where Gaal is transported back. I mean, I really loved all the story beats. I really liked all the performances. I even liked Salver, I even liked Salver's performances.
She's starting to grow on you now, huh?
Yeah.
Like a barnacle. A barnacle.
Great. What about you?
I totally agree. This was a massively packed episode. When I was going through the outline, thank you for doing the outline again this week. It was like really super dense. I didn't realize how dense it was. I think when I first watched this, it was later in the evening. I think I was tired and I didn't like it. I thought this was a really weird episode on my first watch, but then on second watch, taking it apart, I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I think one of the things that took me out, well, and we can talk about it when we get to the scenes, but do you remember seeing a weird visual effect happening on the screen at times, sort of on the edge of the framing? That was an intentional thing that they did. It's a visual language thing.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about it later. And I realized that from the official podcast. They talked a little bit about that, but they were doing it so much in this episode that it felt like the production was bad.
Okay. And
so it broke my verisimilitude, and I was like, I don't like this episode. But then, yeah, going into it a second time, this show is so freaking ambitious. When you think about that, they've just introduced a whole other faction to this storytelling with the Spacers, right? There's a whole other story beat going on now. We have Terminus, we have Empire, we have the Cloud Dominion, we've got Mentalics, we've got Belrios and his army. Now we've got Spacers. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, a base of Spacers.
Yes.
Space base.
So I'm kind of blown away at what the show is doing, what they're setting up for the season. I mean, if he's really swinging for 8 seasons,
that's
right?
Too much. I still think it's too much. I don't know his vision. I still feel like it's too much. I hope he proves me wrong.
Right. Yeah, because he's laying some serious track here. This whole story within a story, this flashbacky thing, it was, again, when I first watched it, it took me out because it's very film noir type of story, right? This femme fatale, with the gun at the door and the man in the stairwell and the shadows. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. It was a very jarring for
Okay.
me.
I liked
But
it. I liked his
okay.
backstory.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad that's there. I mean, it's a massive information dump inside of a flashback, right?
Yeah.
They're setting up a whole bunch of context for us and understanding of what the prime radiant is and how it works. This whole idea that Harry, we've seen him as a loveless character, but in fact, he did love. He did love a child that was never born.
You asked the last question: can Harry love?
Yeah, and we know he did at one time. Can he love again? I suppose.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation. Maybe we can weave it in later or something. But this idea, I had this idea today when I was thinking about before we got on recording. As Demerzel is to the Empire, is she to the Empire as the second foundation is to the first?
Like a check or the one with all the information? I don't know. Yeah, because she has a larger memory than any of them.
Right. And
she's more well hung than any of the empires.
And her job is to nudge if we can assume that her job is to nudge the Cleons into alignment when they get out of alignment.
Right.
And that's the job
or snap their necks,
or snap their necks, or just cleanly remove them. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting mirroring thing, a twinning thing that they're doing with the show. And I'm excited to see as we get from 6 into, I don't know if we're going to get, somewhere in 7 or 8, I feel like we're going to get some Demerzel stuff. And I think they seeded it a little bit in this episode. There's one key scene that really caught my eye. So
cool. Very cool.
All right. So we've got this list of open questions that we've been sort of keeping, just little things, some little things, some big things that we want to touch base on. Oh, and before I get too far, I saw Marilyn over the weekend. We actually got together in person, which is was very cool. And one of the things she said is, she's like, well, you guys, if you need research for your shows, let me know. I'm a research librarian. And I said, well, I have been dragging my feet on doing some background on Asimov and on the books.
Offloading that one.
So she sent me a link today to a big Google Doc with a whole ton of notes, several pages of notes. So I think next episode I will be able to summarize that, and we can talk a little bit about Asimov the man, and then maybe the episode after that we can talk a little bit about the books. So
yeah, that sounds good. I'm very grateful that Marilyn's doing some research, because Asimov seems like a very interesting person. I was talking to a friend the other day, catching up. He said, I just picked up some Asimov novels at the bookstore, and I said, are you watching Foundation? He said, no. I was like, well, I don't know what you're doing then, man.
Get on the show. It's good. I have to say, this show is going to be within the top 5, no doubt. I mean, we've got to see what else is coming out of this year, but this is definitely in my top 5, I think.
Yeah.
It's scoring strong.
It's very good. I don't know if it will end there, because we have a lot of good stuff coming.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's,
for now,
right now, probably top 5. I got to think about that harder.
Okay, fair enough. We don't want to box ourselves in too much, but yeah, I'm feeling strong. So anyway, open question. So one of the questions we had was about what Harry's father was doing with those weird sand-shaped things. Well, we learned that those things are called moonshrikes, these sort of dinosaur creatures. So I think we can kind of close that one off. I don't think they're going to do much more with it now that we got the backstory. No. But we learned that that's how Harry learned to read patterns. That was his first practical experiment in envisioning and learning large scale patterns. And even though his father looks like an abusive asshole, this is where he learned his mathematical art, or he first really encountered it. So we still don't know who tinkered with Day's aura or anything about the blind angels, psycho encryption, all of this kind of stuff. So that's still holding. We're still learning about the Prime Radiant and how and the rules by which it's operating. Is there a sentience in it or not? We're not sure. Superpositioning. I mean, in this episode, Harry clearly explains that it's in 2 places at once, and then if you open it up. So is that the passing ghost that Dr. Selden in the vault referred to?
Yeah, because he doesn't know that Harry exists, so I don't know exactly what he was referring to.
Right. And then when every time that Harry looks at it or Gaal looks at it in whatever time they're on, is it then updating something in the vault?
Right.
Is it
Or is Calais whatever the Prime
intelligence?
Radiance thing was in there,
Mm-hmm.
is that going rogue is the question.
Interesting. Could do. Right. Like, yeah, because this thing was programmed between him and Yana, right?
Right.
It's as much Yana as it is as Harry.
Right.
So yeah, so how we're still learning the rules of how the Prime Radiant operates between the Vault and the Prime Radiant.
Right.
So we're going to leave that question open, I think. What and where Ignis? Yeah, we got that one. Kale, yeah, we don't know how Kale is existing. We have some theories now about Harry potentially coming at the end of this episode.
Nothing's been confirmed. Slow your roll.
Strong suspicions.
Sure. I don't think they're going to kill him off, so probably, yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, that's my thought. Is like, you're going to kill, what's his name, the actor? Blanking.
Jared Harris.
Harris,
you still got another Jared Harris involved, but he's less involved. It's, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, there's an answer there. Where's Hober going? Well, he's going to the hive.
We know that one now.
So we can close that off. And I'm still curious about the scars on the guard Marclay's face. And who is he and what does he want?
I don't know if you're getting that one.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's a minor question, I guess you could say.
Right.
But then you brought up a really interesting question: is Harry still terminally ill? I mean, he's going to be terminally something at the end of this episode.
That's true. If he's a robot, then I would say they probably didn't put self-destruct in there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Why would he die? And I think Marilyn wrote in. She figured out the name of the disease, Lethe's disease, and I think we've got a feedback about that at the end of the podcast. So
great.
All right. So those are sort of our open questions, and if we come up with any more, and if anybody in listener land wants to write in and point some things out, I would gladly accept them. Some callbacks, some other things I wanted to touch on before we get into the episode directly. You know those 3 warships that jump into orbit around a planet in the opening credits? I thought that was Terminus, but now I'm not so sure. That planet that they jump into has a moon. Now, Trantor has a set of rings, so if they showed the rings, then that would be a clear giveaway for that. But the thing that's confusing me is every time they show that, or on that planet, there's like a pattern on, like a lotus flower style pattern on the planet. And when you look at Trantor, whenever you see a picture of Trantor, like when Polly and Constant are in the Rings Hotel, and they look down onto Trantor, there's a little patterning that's going on the surface. That's, lights from the infrastructure and stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So then I'm like, is Bell going to turn and he's going to jump and, threaten Terminus in some way? That's an interesting theory that I had.
Yeah. Threaten Trantor, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry. Threaten Trantor. There is another thing for the opening, and I'll save it to when we get to the scene in the show episode, scene by scene. But there's something that we see in the opening credits that we see in this episode. That's a real object in the story.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
We'll get to that when we get there. But then I wanted to mention that the title of this episode, Why the Gods Made Wine, that is a line that Harry says when he's cray-cray in the Prime Radiant and he's sort of screaming and ranting in his black box experimental, college theater stage room.
Oh, he's in the void.
He's in the void.
Suspend your disbelief, David. It's the void is more fun than the critique chair, the critic chair.
This. Well, I feel like I'm in my chair. I've got a microphone. I get to say these things. I don't know.
You do. You get to.
Yeah.
I'm just inviting you for the fun.
Right. And it doesn't mean that I don't get pushback for the things that I say. But But the whole line was, gods made wine to compensate for those who cannot afford revenge.
Ah.
And
Okay.
that is a line from Yana, which is a line from an author of the book. So at the end of the episode, when he's walking in the library with the guy, he asks for a book, and it's this book that has this line in it.
Okay.
As far as
that's pretty
I'm
fascinating.
Tracking. Yeah.
Wow.
So
What
I thought,
a deep cut.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hey, I'm earning my big bucks, my big
go.
ad dollar bucks.
Yeah,
for,
you're big like 2 cents an ad buck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were talking about Cleon 1, right? The Prime Cleon. And he was saying in the last episode, all of these tendencies are known and accounted for when Dawn and Dusk confront him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this, as we know, this day he's weak and he's overbearing. The Imperial crest is everywhere. He says the rings are to, remind the citizens that they're shackled and, they're under our dominion and our control. And then we have now Dominion and Queen Sereth, who's sort of challenging that. But going back to Day's weak and overbearing nature, is that known and accounted for? Is Cleon Prime actually aware of what's going on in this? So it's not, I don't think it rises to the level of an open question, but it's something I wanted to not let slip too far.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I couldn't help but that then led me to thinking about this parallel between Foundation and Empire. And as we have Demerzel to Empire as the second Foundation is the first Foundation, another parallel is that they both have founding constructs they can refer to. So, Foundation waits for Hari to descend in the vault, while Empire has Cleon, like a Cleon version that they can go to. So it's just, again, more.
Yeah, that's interesting
stuff. So, all right. So that's all I had there for sort of weird, interesting callbacks from previous episodes. So
I liked it. You had some deep cuts there, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You got real Lorehoundy with it.
Well, I got a critic's chair, I got a microphone, I might as well sweat the details a little bit.
There you go. There you go. Speaking of details, some details on our coverage. You read the books a while ago, didn't quite finish it, and it's old in your memory, so you might not have everything fresh.
Right.
I read book 1 and I dropped it because it was boring. And
do you know?
That's
apparently,
just kind of how I felt about it.
When Asimov was, I just learned this today. Apparently, when Asimov was contracted to revive Foundation and to write some, prequel books and stuff, he read his 3 books and he called his own work boring.
I mean, it is. It's very boring.
It's just like nothing happened. There's no tension.
Right. Right. They're just like, and then there's going to be a crisis, but don't worry, we've got a plan and it will be solved. And
right. And so he even sort of said in his own lifetime, wow, those are, good ideas, but would I have done them differently? I would
there's this thing that Vonnegut does in his science fiction where he has a science fiction writer that's kind of a self-insert in his books named Kilgore Trout. And he uses this guy to like roast sci-fi writers, including himself.
Oh God, I never picked up on that.
It's so funny.
That's
and
good.
There's even this running joke where like, in one of the books, he just constantly is like coming up with new ideas in his internal monologue, and Vonnegut has all these like 1-paragraph sci-fi novels.
Interesting.
He's like, and then they realized that everyone was cows or something like that. Like weird, like pulpy stuff that is, but like has like some kind of central moral, like classic sci-fi did, and it just makes me think of it when we talk about Asimov like this. It's just like idea-based story rather than a narrative-based story.
Right. We'll put Vonnegut on the list if we ever run out of TV shows to cover the strike.
It might happen next year. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. But right now we have too much to cover. So we do have screeners. So we're watching the episode that we're covering and no further. But we are watching a little earlier than everyone else, which means we can get the episodes out the day that the embargo lifts, which is Friday morning. So this episode will be out then, as will all the episodes of Foundation. Now, it's time to take a break, David.
Okay, sounds good.
because it's been 20 minutes and we haven't talked about the episode yet.
Yeah,
So we'll see you
it's
in a moment.
podcast.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back. And we're back, and it's time to break down the episode. All right, I'm going to start off here with the summary. The first scene, we open with Hari by the shore remembering a stampede. Salvor tells him that she's been having strange dreams, then talks to Josiah, who talks back with unvoicing, and shows Salvor his fast trauma. Tellem saved Josiah when he was persecuted. Salvor then has visions of all the Mentalics' experiences. Tellem says either Mentalics are treated as gods among men or wolves among sheep. David, Josiah, what did you think of the naming of him? Do you think this is related to the biblical king?
I think you're going to have to go Lorehound deep cut for me
right.
on that then.
Josiah was the king of Judah, who saw everybody praying to idols and whatnot and found a copy of the Torah and went, oh my God, we got to get back to this. And he was basically this like last good king of Judah that saved the nation from God's wrath for a while. And I'm wondering if he's going to play a role similar.
Interesting.
In this against maybe Tellem is the evil king, queen here, but the evil leader that's going to take them down a bad path. Josiah sort of brings them back to righteousness.
Interesting. I like it. Can I put it in the open questions?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put Josiah down there. I like it. I think they put a lot of time into showing us that particular thing. I mean, obviously it's context to show us Tellem and what the Mentalics are, how that all has come to pass. But they did give Josiah a little bit more prominence than just sort of a generic thing. So
they did. And it did feel very much like this, very scripted moment to make Gaal trust Tellem and the Mentalics more.
Right.
This felt very intentional.
So along with that intentional thing, and I mentioned this before the break, there is this lens blurring effect on the edges of the frame, and you'll probably start to notice it now. Not unlike when Westworld went to a different aspect ratio. They squeezed it down to whatever, so you get black bars above and below the image. They're doing this with this sort of fisheye, blurry, weird thing where things in the center are in focus, but on the outer edges of it, it's warped and looks weird. And you'll notice it in one of these scenes when in the opening. And this is this effect that is a visual language to us to not trust the point of view of the character that we're with in that moment. That something's going on with them. Some Mentalic, Meshuggah is going on here.
A lot of Meshuggah in this episode.
Yes, there is.
A lot of Meshuggah.
So I think, I think this effect was when Hari was remembering the dino creatures, when it was on him, or was it on with, oh boy, now I can't remember. I have my notes, but I didn't make a note of who was experiencing that. So
somebody's experiencing it. I do think that the dino thing was either a result of Tellem mentioning it and, triggering Hari's memory, or she's actually manipulating his memories to bring him back there. Right.
And I think Hari's been under mental assault the entire time, right?
Yeah.
They've been trying to probe his brain and pick at him and get stuff from him and appearing as Raish.
Yeah. So if he's a robot, why would that work?
Yes. Big question, big open question on that.
So I'm not fully convinced he's a robot, mostly because of that.
Okay. But then, when Dominion says that, when they touched Demerzel or whatever, she feels his flesh and blood, and
Mm-hmm.
right?
But she's got the
So
decentralized nervous system. Listen, if Demerzel comes to this planet and goes, "Wow, my head feels funny," then sure, I'm convinced. But I don't think
right,
that's going to
right.
happen.
And they're still rolling out a lot of the rules of the game for how Mentalics works,
Right.
right? We don't
Right.
understand a lot yet. But one of the rules that they laid out in this scene was this connectivity between music and thought,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
The
When she
pitch.
blows the whistle and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That's
Josiah's
not it.
like, ow.
That's not it.
So
Yep.
I thought of you when I saw that, because I've, as a musical person, I thought,
Right.
oh, this could be an interesting angle for John. So
Music is very it's very powerful in bringing back memories. You hear a
yeah.
song and you often are brought back to a place where you were with that song. I was listening to Green Day the other day and I was brought back to being on the school bus and blasting that in my ears
Okay.
in middle school. You know,
Nice.
it's just
Yeah.
something that can really like bring you back. It can trigger your memory.
It bypasses a lot of precognitive thought. It just goes right in and
Right.
starts activating. You can't stop
Right.
You can't stop yourself from hearing it, right?
Right.
Same with smell or taste, I guess would be the same.
Yeah.
There's just no
Yeah.
way for
Smell
you
is
to,
I think even more,
right.
more tied to memory than music and then hearing is.
Which is interesting because that's how Tellem uses part of the thing that she does with Gaal later, is that there's that smell,
Right.
that grounding
Right.
thing that
Right.
you can't stop it from coming in. So
Exactly.
one production detail I wanted to call out, and nerding out on the production stuff, was they were using the dolly zoom technique, which is how you get that weird vertigo effect where you're, the person is staying still, but it feels like the background is shifting behind them. So
Right.
when Salvor is talking to Josiah, they're doing that. They're bringing them closer together, but maintaining their relative distance. And that's a cool effect where you take the camera and you physically move the camera toward your subject so it stays. But then let me finish the explanation. At the same time, you're zooming out.
Mm-hmm.
So the subject stays relative in the frame, but
Right.
the
I've
background
I've seen
perspective
this
is
happen
shifting.
before.
Yeah,
I've seen this
it gets
happen
used a lot.
before. Yeah, it's a very cool effect. I
It
like it a
is.
lot.
So they did that with Salvor and Josiah as they were talking, and I thought it was just cool. I liked it.
Right.
So
Cool.
nerding out. And, last thought too on this. I think this whole thing where Salvar's in the village with all the people and they're all giving her memories.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what the mule says, you and your Mentalics or your Mentalic army or whatever, and Salvar's there dead. And it makes me think that this is the beginning of Salvar's pathway to becoming a leader among the Mentalics. Right. Well, Gaal may be the big mama, the big person in charge.
Okay. You're saying she's deputy.
Yeah, exactly.
Deputy
she's a
Sal.
general, or she's a squad leader or whatever you want to, but she's
you can't just hand out general like you're in Star Wars.
I mean, General Sandula, she just got they threw her some candy, right?
They give everybody a generalship
they do
in Star Wars. Everybody's got like 10 stars on their general hat in Star Wars.
Check out our Ahsoka coverage starting now. Next week.
We're doing it. Yeah.
Full coverage, so it's going to be fun.
Exactly. Let's move on. Hari asks for Tellem's help, but she lays out her opposition to Sego history and the Second Foundation. Hari warns her of a coming Mentalic threat called the Mule, which Gaal has seen. Tellem denies the possibility of precognition, but after looking into Gaal's memories, changes her mind in shock. Tellem tells Gaal she knows she wants to save Salvor and denies that the future is unavoidable. She tells Gaal it's time to break free of Hari and that it's Salvor's birthday.
Happy birthday, Salvor.
Again, little steps to make Gaal trust her, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I said Gaal last time. I should have said Salvor, but I think for both of them, they both need to trust her and feel safe with the other person that they know to fully trust Tellem.
Interesting. Okay.
She's sort of using their relationship. They want to have something to bond over. Now they have it, being a Mentalic and being in Tellem's group.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's and Tellem is I think, as crafty as Hari is here, right?
More
She's
even.
right, and she's manipulating Gaal, but she's trying to be open-handed a little bit about it. Later on when we'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, that's interesting. I really like Tellem's practical nature and gritty approach to life. She's just kind of like no bullshit. Or when she is doing bullshit, it's for a very specific purpose, and she has a specific agenda in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like her character a lot. And Rachel House is the actor who's playing her, and she's quite a big deal in New Zealand in the
Is
acting
she?
world. Yeah, she's an acting coach. She's a theater director. In 2012, she won the New Zealand Arts Foundation Laureate Award, which is like a really big deal. So I'm really loving her as a member of this cast. She's just phenomenal, I think.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
So with this whole second foundation and the Mentalics thing, I don't want to go too far down this book path, but there's a book pathway here that again really goes into that whole thing of Goyer taking apart the Lego set that was Asimov's stories
Mm-hmm.
and refashioning it using the building blocks. But this whole Mentalics and the second foundation thing, that is a major book thing, which I'm just going to say, if you're a book reader, you kind of know. But it's really interesting to see how he's recombining and restructuring it for the television show.
That's cool.
No, I was just going to say, so again, like it's a really, the more that Goyer has room to run with this, the more he's earning my trust that he's actually going to do this over this whole thing, really well.
I trust him a lot more this season. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And I have a question for you. Do you think that Tellem really was shocked and believed this threat was real with the mule?
I think so, yes.
You think so? This wasn't like a manipulative thing of, oh my God, I'm a changed woman. Because I got a little bit of that vibe too. I got a little bit of like overreaction too.
Okay, right.
Almost like, you ever watch the bloopers of Liar Liar with Jim Carrey?
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of this movie? Okay, well, in this movie, Jim
Throw it
Carrey's
in the Millennial Madness
son,
Film Fest.
It's not a millennial film. This was like 2000.
Okay.
And Jim Carrey.
Well, I don't know what we're calling
I'm going to now
film.
recap. It's whatever it is. It's whatever it is. Jim Carrey is a lawyer who's very unethical and lies his way through every case. His son makes a birthday wish that his dad can't tell lies anymore. Now he's going around. He can't tell a lie with the supernatural thing.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
In the bloopers of it, he's at trial, and he and opposing counsel, this woman, are calling each other names. And I guess the crew dared her to yell "overactor" at Jim Carrey, and everyone, including Jim Carrey, just lost their friggin' minds. It was
funny.
It's so funny. Now that I've talked about a Jim Carrey movie for 2 full minutes, let's get back to this. I do think that Tellem was overacting a little bit.
Okay.
And I think I think she's taking it seriously, but I also think that she's like, oh, this is a great tool to get in their heads more with Salvor's death. That is the big thing she takes out of it.
I wouldn't put it past her to see a strategic opportunity and really take advantage of it, full advantage of it. She may have had, Gaal's special and I really want her as part of our community. And then now she's like, oh, well, now she has to become the leader and I have to make the pitch now. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it accelerates her planning.
I think also people are complicated and good shows have complicated people, and
Agreed.
It doesn't need to be either or, right? Like she could take it seriously and be acting,
Sure. Yeah. That's what, I totally agree. My question back though is how much does Hari actually know about the mule? Because when he's telling Tellem about the mule and they're kind of daring her to do the vision, he sounds really convincing for only having gotten this information secondhand from Gaal's, suffocation on the.
Well, I think this is he had time to sort of discuss this more with Gaal. Sounds like they have.
Sure. Okay, that's fair
And
enough.
he's
Yeah.
had a few days on the island with the Mentalics to sort of put together, okay, this guy could look into her mind. That's exactly what
Mm-hmm.
they're doing here. He's also a Mentalic. I think he's a smart guy. He can put it all together and he can formulate an elegant way to say it.
I mean, he did stand toe to toe with Empire and say that your
Right,
empire,
right,
it's
right.
going to crumble. So yeah, I think if anything, Harry has that strong ego sense. Okay, all right, I'll take that.
All right, next scene. The drunk and the monk arrive on Trantor, where they are given provisional visas and a hotel room and head out to explore Trantor on the Prophet's expense account.
The shipborne, I just keep saying it every episode. The shipborne in this
It's
show
great.
is
Yeah.
amazing. That sort of bullet like trajectory of the oh no, that's the later one. That's Hober's ship. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
the big Empire ship jumping in, all aflame with the rings spinning. Oh my god, it was gorgeous.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And the spacers don't know yet that they're out of a job.
That's true. They're going to be a little bit upset about that, probably.
Probably. Like, what do we do all this genetic engineering for?
That's right.
And now we're just here and we got, glow in the dark people.
Right. Who could just put a little thing on their wrist and call it good.
Yeah.
Real, again, on the visuals, there's a great shot here of the rings of Trantor and the rings of Trantor being framed by the rings of the ship as the ship sort of pulls into orbit, and it's just off center. So it's not too on the nose, but again, just, beautiful visuals. So
yeah,
very cool. She Shines Brightly by the Seashore, selling she art. I don't know.
Well,
anyway.
how often do the spacers actually use their names? Everybody's asleep when they're working with them.
Right, exactly. And they don't really interact with them. She says, it's an art that we continue to perfect, although it was begun by Empire full 600 years ago when our servitude was forged.
Mm.
And then now we're going to go to the Central Hive later on. So
I like it. I like this lore going on.
Yeah. So how are they human? Because one of the ways that we define species is that you're able to procreate and have viable offspring.
Sure, yeah.
So if they're a human species, are they, like, how are we defining things here? And I'll drop a little hint here to some future stuff, but in some cases, two species can procreate. Like if you get a female horse and a male donkey, you get a mule that is
but the mule is the mule's always sterile, which is how you know they're still different species.
Yeah. So just dropping that one in there. Those who know, book know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So interesting though, this idea of servitude and we are human. What does that really mean in this case, since they seem very mechanical? And I think it's this idea that in episode 6 of season 2, he's dropping a whole other faction into the storyline. It's wild. That is bold, and that is big gamble from a storytelling standpoint.
I like it. I'm into it.
These rings are massive, dude. Did you see the scale of the ships when they're docking at the rings? There's like 20 other ships docked as we go a close up into the rings, like around it. It's insane. I don't know how big your TV is. I don't have a very big TV, but it's wild.
I got a decent TV, and it does look good on there.
Yeah.
Although I usually watch it on my computer because screeners don't translate very well to TV.
No, they don't. Do you have I have on Roku, there's actually an Apple Screeners app that I can actually install. Yeah.
Huh. I don't know, because I've been using my TV apps lately because my daughter kept losing the Fire TV remote, so I just kind of got it away because the TV remote's bigger, so it's harder for her to lose.
Right.
So that's where I'm at.
I don't know if the Fire maybe Fire has the Apple TV screener app. So
yeah, maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah. Going back to some more biblical stuff, when the people are coming off the ship and going through customs, it was very 2x2, very Noah's Ark, as they're walking through the tunnel there. I thought, oh, that's a little on the nose there. It was interesting.
I like it. I like it. I like little nods like that.
Right.
It's there if you want it.
And then I guess we get to see Tamandra again. She's the customs agent that they talk to. She's the one that arrests them later on.
Oh yeah. Okay. Was she in an earlier episode?
No, she was just here. She was behind the glass. She's the one that gave him the provisional visas.
Salver visits Hari for a little light inquisition and wonders why Calais turned an immortal Hari into a mortal one. He posits a messiah theory, but Salver calls the vault his resurrection. Salver suggests it was to give him some skin in the game. Hari laments his broken relationship with Gaal. Hari tells Salver that as long as Gaal has her, she won't become him. I loved this debate. This is what I mean. Like the dialogue and the small moments have gotten a lot better in this.
Yeah,
in the series, and that's, I think, the biggest compliment I can give this series. It's gotten very good. It's gotten much better at being comfortable in its skin enough to have these small moments and not feel like everything needs to be a spectacle.
Right. And I think Leah Harvey is settling into her role.
Yeah,
and her
let's not complain about cursing with her this episode. The people have spoken on our Discord and an email, and
got an email.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
you all know how we feel about it. But I don't even think she cursed this episode. So,
yeah, I agree. She's gotten a lot more comfortable and confident, and just to have this conversation is really great. You're awfully relaxed for a man on a planet of possibly hostile psychics. Like that's a great little line,
Yeah,
it's really good. So you wrote here too, sometimes being angry is easier than facing the truth.
I mean, I can talk forever about that because that's the main theory of patriarchy, according to some feminist scholars. You're using this anger, you're using these band-aids to avoid grieving, to avoid feeling loss. You're cutting yourself off from others so that you won't have to feel lost when they're gone. Yeah. Yeah. And it's I just loved that line. I thought that really hit things on the nose here.
Nice. Question: how did Hari not know about Gaal and Raish? It seems crazy for me that he, is he telling a lie to Salver here, or did he really not know that those two were knocking boots?
Well, we saw a lot of them, but I'm trying to think back and see if Hari ever saw a lot of them because he was a little busy planning his murder suicide.
Right, his ascension to godhood.
Yeah, he had a lot going on at the time. I could forgive him some oversights.
Okay. I just think it's a little bit, for a guy who sees so many details, like Pa'a doesn't have a shadow when they go in, and and all of these kinds of details, that he missed his son and his number one, his successor, right? Were in cahoots. Well, not in cahoots.
I don't think Gaal's his successor. I think she is now, but I think she was actually kind of just a tool to him at that time. Okay. I think she was almost invisible to him as far as.
But when they were on the slow ship, that he intended her to go to Terminus to be the psychic historian there.
But she was going to be the first in a line of just people to manage the foundation. She wasn't going to be the new Hari. Hari was always going to show up. Right?
True. Right.
Hari was always going to show up and still be Hari.
Right.
She was a tool to him. Raish had the real important mission of starting the second foundation. That was his successor.
Okay.
He had the whole plan. Gaal was going to think that Hari was murdered and, have this whole thing.
Right. Okay. No, I guess that makes sense. And that furthers Tellem's argument when we get to it later of like why Gaal needs to get out away from Hari.
It's not a meritless argument, I have to say. I think Hari generally has good intentions, but I don't know if he always does the right thing.
Well, we'll never. What was the line? Never allow your morals to set your values.
I wrote it down later, so we can get to it later.
Okay, good.
Yeah. There was another great line here. We've all been guilty of magical thinking at one time or another, which is true, right? It's this idea of sometimes your brain won't let you accept true things because it's traumatic and
Mm-hmm.
your brain does a little gymnastics,
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't believe it.
Or you see the big upside to something without the actual details of,
Right. Right.
how to actually achieve that or what it means if you did have that thing. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Tellem visits Gail on the beggar and apologizes for her treatment of Harry. She tells Gail how they find other mentalics to take in. After invading Gail's memories, Tellem tells the truth about herself and tells Gail that she's afraid of dying. Tellem tells Gail she would like her to be the successor to the leader of the mentalics, but that Harry Seldon cannot be involved. In return, Tellem will train Gail so that she can protect Tellem's children and use the same skills to keep Salver alive.
Yeah. This scene, Rachel House, the actor who's playing Tellem, she's
Mm-hmm.
so damn good.
Right.
This is just such a powerful scene, and she's just so, I don't know, there's something very earthy and gritty about her portrayal, and she comes in, she's got a plan, she executes the plan pretty flawlessly and really, gets right up into Gail's
Mm-hmm.
mind, and then says, hey, look, I'm not coming empty-handed. You're right. I am asking something from you, and I have something in return. And I just love her straightforward. She's devious though too, so I can't call her straightforward. I don't know. I love what's going on with Tellem.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. I really appreciated the Starbucks mug that they had. The fact that the traveler that they had looked exactly like one you could just buy at a Starbucks of water, a cup of
I
water.
missed that.
I was just like, did you just go to the store? Did you go to Target and just pick one up? It was just
Right?
funny.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was just funny.
I was actually eyeballing the Prime Radiant on the table.
Oh, really? Yeah, you're gonna say it's there? Do you have
Yeah,
receipts?
I do. I took a picture. I'm going to post it in our private conversation right now. Yeah, so they show this twice. They show Gail looking at it, obviously for once
Yep.
for
Yep.
us during the scene, and then later in the flashback, the film noir
Yep.
flashback thing, when Harry, I forget the name of the doctor. It's in the show notes when we get there. After she leaves the office, he taps it on the table and it sort of folds up again
Yeah. No,
from
it
a
looks
flat
exactly like
piece.
that. It looks exactly like it did when it was flat. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good
I'll post
catch.
this in our
Good catch.
Discord once the embargo lifts. But yeah,
Cool.
I think it's, I don't know how Gail's keeping it from Tellem though. She's, if they can read her mind. And then I don't know, did you notice there was a whole bunch of weird jumps where Tellem's here and then Tellem's there and Gail's having like weird,
Yes.
it's like she's
Yeah.
having little weird memory lapses.
Yeah, because she's cutting
Um,
her off for certain periods of time. I
yeah.
think she's doing searches of the ship while Gail is
Okay.
shut down.
Right. Right. She's got
Probably.
her frozen there or something like
Right.
that. And then she uses the voice. She uses the Benny Gesserit Dune
Right.
voice on
Right.
Gail to pick up.
Unvoice.
Yeah.
Unthink their minds.
And she forces Gail to pick up the thing, but then Gail like hits her with a, Chun-Li style, force blast thing.
Yeah, I see you have questions here.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So she used a force push. But
Maybe.
then Tellem said that she can't use her mind to move objects, but Gail just did.
Or did she tell him to throw herself back?
No, but we saw a visual effect of it,
Mm.
and other stuff in the ship like reacted.
Now I got to go
from
back
it.
and rewatch this.
Yeah.
So that I can. You know what? I'm gonna just pull it up right now. Yeah. So I just paused the recording so I could watch this back like 10 times. This like 2-second thing, and I don't know, because I do see some like white sparks kind of coming out of her hand.
Right. It looks a little like the Weave.
Sure, in the Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time. Hey, we're covering Wheel of
Yeah.
Time, full season coverage.
Wow, these self-placed ads are really going for it.
We might as well. Nobody
Yeah.
else is gonna.
You ever watch 30 Rock?
Yeah, I have. I've here and there.
You know how they do ads with now? This is my second tangent of the night. You know how they do ads where they make fun of the ad? And
Yeah, I recall some. Yeah.
there's a whole episode where they have Snapple sponsoring it, and they one time they look at the camera straight up and go, "Can we have our money, please?"
Nice. All right, all right. So now I just looked at this scene now too, and you know what's happening is around
What?
the edge of the frame, we are getting the weird distortion that tells
Right.
us that we
Right.
should not trust what we're seeing.
So you think that Tellem is making Gaal think that she used the Force?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. To test if she's susceptible to approval, whatnot.
Right. Yeah, because when Tellem goes sliding backwards, you can see it very clearly. There's this sort of fisheye
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely
effect.
happening. That's sparks aside, that's definitely happening, and that's a good point. You can't do anything with. You can't actually move objects, right? So
Telekinesis
right.
versus what? Mind reading.
However, Gaal has precognition, which you
Yes.
supposedly can't do either.
Right. They Tellem specifically says that we've never encountered precognition before.
But I also think that Tellem would probably say, "Oh, you were a telekinetic too," or like she would make a big deal out about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, if you had I don't know, would you rather have mind reading or telekinesis? That's an interesting question.
Telekinesis, because I don't want to know everyone's dark secrets. I just don't. I don't need
Could
to
you
know what
imagine
they're
just
thinking.
walking down the street? Oh, the cacophony would be terrible.
Yeah,
In New York
exactly.
City? Oh, my Lord.
Exactly.
Telekinesis, like, hey, I need a beer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So-
Here's what I would say is also we don't see Tellem's feet, so we don't know if she's like stumbling backwards herself, like rushing backwards herself from mind control. So there's a lot of options here. I think we just are not going to get the answer tonight.
No, yeah, and it goes to this point that they're still rolling out the rules of Mentalics to us slowly, because
Right.
Tellem says, "Oh, you learn fast."
Right.
So what did she learn? How did she learn how to do that? Was she just
Right.
pushing her out of her mind, or was she pushing her physically?
Right.
But this weird shaping, we know we can't trust what they showed us on the
Right.
screen. So
Interesting. You can even call it the second foundation if you don't come up with something catchier. I like that. It kind of made fun of the show too.
Yeah.
And the books, I
and
guess.
yeah, we haven't had any good humor in this episode. As you know, in the last couple of episodes, we've had some really good, funny stuff. This is a very serious episode overall.
It was, but it was still my favorite.
Yeah. And then to back up that line, she says, "Look at you, relieved that you didn't disappoint. That's a weakness, one that I imagine Hari has used on you more than once."
And he has, but so has she.
Right. And she's using it. And I think this is a really important key to understanding Gaal and her motivations and how Gaal operates. And this, to me, is really damn good writing and character development. This is a very real human trait. There are people, like we all have little operating principles in our head to sort of keep us moving in the right direction. And for some people, that's the thing is that we're pleasers, or we want to do everything for everybody, or we want to make everybody feel good around us, or whatever our little operants are. And this is one of them, which is, I didn't disappoint my betters, my parents, my boss, or whatever. That's a prime motivator. And that's a very real thing. And I really appreciate the show is grounding us in real character development. And the question is can Gaal observe that?
Right.
And then be able to and
then go, shift. I want to break free.
Exactly.
Will she become Freddie Mercury?
I don't think so. But she could use your mind tricks on you and make you believe that she's Freddie Mercury. So,
Fair enough.
I mean, would you care?
I guess point? Not. I'd still get to hear a live Freddie Mercury performance.
That's right. So second foundation is a go, I guess, with Gaal.
Yeah, the second Mentalication,
Right.
Whatever it is. Whatever it is. Let's move on, David, to Hober-Mallow, who arrives at his destination and no one seems to be about. Becky seems upset that Hober meant to stall them in deep space with no way to get home, and then a giant crazy spaceship drifts in over the Spirit.
This was some seriously wacky Close Encounters of the Third Kind stuff.
I even skipped over it in the outline. I see you added it here because I was like,
Yes.
"There's no plot here. I'm just leaving this out."
It was pure visuals of a boiling ship, sort of smoking, rising in. I just couldn't bypass it. I thought it was too good. So
Maybe one day I'll watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
it's wacky. It's wacky. Hey, you get to see oh God, what's his name? Build a devil's tower out of mashed potatoes. It's really amazing.
That sounds unpleasant.
The special effects at the time and the visuals of making these spaceships and stuff, it was extraordinary for when it was made. So
That's very good for all those people who were watching it right then.
and now you have
I have
some
Foundation.
amazing stuff. Exactly.
Hari tells Salvor about the purpose of the second foundation and the superposition of the prime radiant. Radio.
Now it's happening to
okay.
you. I used to be.
I can't pronounce anything. The prime radiant. He tells her that that the other Hari does not have knowledge of all the plan and does not know that another Hari exists. Tellem and Gaal arrive and propose that Gaal takes over the Mentalics and Hari exit the plan. When Hari resists, Tellem asks Hari what happened on Makota Mesa in Helicon. Ooh.
So which sets up for our sort of third act of this show. But I did like how Grandpa was taking granddaughter to go fishing and teach her some life lessons, sort of stuff.
Yeah, I did like that. It was nice
Right.
when she's like, "I got a fish."
It was super lame, the reeling in of the fish. They just had some rubber fish on the end of the line that she pulled back. It was bad.
Maybe they were trying to go with like an alien fish kind of thing, but it did not work.
It did not work. Whole thing. And they were sitting in a weird place in the rocks, probably because they had to be so far back so they wouldn't get sprayed on for real. And
right.
Yeah, I didn't buy the physicality of the scene. I bought the conversation and the interaction, but just
it was fine. It was fine. Looked better than Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
No. I edited his fundamental knowledge.
Yeah.
This Harry's just messing with people, right? He's
what
manipulating
That's who he is.
Messing with people. He's really, and then of course now the Mentalics are messing with people, right? They're editing people's, memories in some ways and manipulating their perceptions of reality. So,
right.
And again, in this scene, we get a lot of that weird lens flaring, and I didn't freeze frame to see who it was happening with, but I think later we realize what's happened.
Yeah, it's Hari.
Yeah.
It's Hari.
Well, no, but they do it to Gaal and Salvor to convince them that Hari got mad and left in the middle of an argument. But meanwhile, they've taken Hari off to drown him.
Well, he did leave in the middle of an argument.
But that's not
he did actually leave, though.
He did actually leave, but he was they made him do that.
Sure, I agree with you there. I'm just saying I think that they don't need to trick Gaal and Salvor when it's actually happening. They're just tricking Hari.
Right. And that's why I'm saying I don't remember who they were showing us with the weird lens flaring effect.
Right.
So
right. Hari would do anything for love, but he won't tell Gaal that she could save Salvor.
Can't save my own granddaughter, right? Yeah.
No.
So
no, he wouldn't do that.
And I love that again, Hari just being so clever, and he knew exactly the leverage that Tellem was going to use, and he calls her out on it and says, "Oh, did Tellem tell you this and tell you that?"
Right.
Hari is really smart, super smart.
He is. He's smart enough to stand in the middle of a stampede.
and actually
to tell the tale
and murder somebody by using the stampede.
Not a bad method,
No.
If you're gonna go for murder, not a bad method.
John, can you trust your own mind?
I hope so, because I wrote the outline.
But then did I edit your fundamental knowledge of the episode?
You did make a couple edits, so maybe
I did.
Yeah, I guess so. Sure. Are you telling Bob?
I wish. Well, yeah. I don't want to read your thoughts though. I'd rather have telekinesis. Thanks.
All right. Constant and Polly find their way back to their hotel room, and Polly asks her to flush his ortoline dust. Polly comes to grips with his lifelong addiction, and they discuss the role of faith in one's life. I think I wouldn't phrase it like that. I see you've changed my thing. I would phrase it as comparing belief and faith. You know,
Okay.
this idea of I believe in my country, and my country, I could see that it's there. You know what I mean? I could see the
Right.
flag. There is an organization that I can call my country.
Hmm.
I have faith in a principle or a god or this and
Hmm.
that. I think that that's what Polly was saying, is you believed because you wanted to, whereas I believed because I had proof. And
Yes.
I don't actually agree with this. I don't agree with this framing of like belief is
Okay.
more powerful when you don't have proof. Nah, I don't buy that. But he does. He sure does.
Hmm. I was thinking of it in a slightly different way versus in the belief in what he experienced as opposed to faith in what somebody else told you. So she's
Ah,
being told that this guy Harry came out of the vault and that I shook his
right.
hand, right, or whatever. But I was there, so I believe that, I have a belief that it happened because it happened to me. It didn't happen to you. We told you that it happened. And now you have faith in that story. And then Polly is saying that your faith dwarfs my belief,
Yeah, I just
right?
disagree with him.
That faith
I
dwarfs
think that
belief
yeah.
in intensity.
I don't think there's any pride in believing something based on hearsay rather than your own experiences. I don't think that that's something that I'd like to encourage in Constant. I
Okay.
think that if she now sees that Harry is just a man and that he makes some mistakes, that will be a healthier attitude than this faith that she has
Hmm.
right now.
Right. Because she has faith in the foundation while he has belief because he
I
was
think she has
there.
faith in Selden. I think she has faith
Right.
in the plan. Whereas Polly had belief in the man of Harry Selden. And actually that
Hmm.
belief was challenged when the wrathful Selden came. And when he
Hmm.
had to put down the alcohol because he's going, holy shit, this guy is just a little troubling. He's
Hmm.
maybe not all there. And yeah, I just I
But
don't.
it's just,
I see what he's saying. I see what he's saying, and I disagree with it. That's what I'm
hmm.
saying.
I think back to the wine thing, I think he put it down because he finally he believes in a mission that he can do. Did he really believe in selling Foundation, the religion of
No,
Foundation
and I
to all
agree
those
with you on
planets?
I agree with you with that on like the drugs and the overall arc. But the moment he put it down was after Harry went. I don't remember the line, but it was basically like you need a wrathful god every now and then,
Right. Yeah.
And I'd
Yeah.
be like, and I saw his face drop. You know what I mean? He just kind
Mm-hmm.
of froze for a minute and then put his wine down. I'm thinking that's his moment of we need another grown up in this room
Mm-hmm.
rather than somebody with a substance abuse problem in charge.
But he's pretty excited though to go to be an emissary and to open
Yeah,
negotiations. So
but I
his
think he's a little bit
he's
in a trust but verify mode.
mm-hmm. Okay.
I think he believes in the mission still, but I think he is thinking to himself, at least I would be, okay, but I should start thinking about what I'm doing instead of just going along with orders.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I mean, I think the other context that we have to have is that this is a man who has been self-medicating for a long time,
Yeah.
and he's
How he
coming
lived
to
150 years, I don't know, but
they get really good health outcomes in the Empire. The
how many
Empire,
livers does the guy had? I just don't know.
exactly. Um, that he's coming to grips with the depth of his addiction,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in this sort of sorrowful state, sort of hit bottom state. He's probably, they've been out drinking, checking out the rings of Trantor and whatnot, and he's feeling shame for all of his, his own perceived weaknesses in his life. And so he's
Yep.
trying to have this sort of moment of truth and comparing his belief and faith. So like there's a lot of drama involved here in his revelation, and pointing out this truth of faith versus belief.
Right.
So
Well, of course, then they get arrested anyway.
which is so good. Just as he delivers this line, and you always had faith constant, and it puts my belief to shame. Boom. There's such great pacing.
He's like,
in the
I
scene.
finally got my life together. And they go, you have the right to remain silent.
You
Actually, he doesn't have the right. He has the obligation because his face is covered.
Shrouded. So.
I do really like that. I like that effect. When they
right, yeah,
it
is very cool. It's terrifying, right? You're just like, oh my God. Yeah, silence completely.
No senses, yeah. All right, David, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll head back to Trantor. And we're back. Day and Sareth announced their intention to marry. After Day's lackluster speech and unveiling of a statue of Sareth, the incoming queen makes a moving speech which causes heavy applause from the crowd. She pledges that their voices will be heard and their needs fulfilled. I loved this scene. I absolutely loved this scene. Sareth killing it on winning over the hearts and minds of the people. No Marie Antoinette in this house. No, this is a lady of the people.
This is very Princess of Wales. This is very Diana.
She's the Diana, huh?
Yeah, very.
I
very
hope she
much
has
so.
a better ending.
We hope so. Quick note: the big statue was of Winniset, a previous empress, not of Sareth. And this is something I wanted to. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he makes a whole thing about Winniset, and she hasn't been around. And
I understand now. I misunderstood what he was saying, but I thought he was saying like, and now there's a giant queen,
right? And so this is what I wanted to say about the opening credit sequence. One of the figures that we see is this statue. This statue is in the opening credits, and it is of Winniset. But then we get another statue later on, which doesn't necessarily look like Sareth. And it's the one where the robes, there's some pyramids in the background and sort of a flat reflective surface in front with several figures to give scale. And part of the visual of that is robes falling behind the figure. And the way that those robes fall in the opening credits sequence looks exactly like the robes don't look exactly like they look in this scene, but they fall. The physical motion of them falling mirrors that opening credit scene of the robes falling behind this other figure.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on there, but it's definitely Winniset. It's definitely in the opening credits. And then who the second figure is, I don't know yet.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because that enlightens me on some things here. What'd you think of Sarah's speech and Day's too? But Day's was kind of fell flat, I think it landed fine, and then she just blew him out of the park.
She blew him out of the water, and there's so much good acting in this whole sequence. When I want to pivot quickly over to Dusk, who says they smell carrion, but no one has died yet, and then we cut to Day.
That's a good line, yeah.
And it tells, this and another line, he says, at least we ate well while the feast was on.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this one line tells me everything I need to know about Cleon the 18th.
16th, right?
16th or no, he's the older one.
I thought 17 is the,
Dusk.
If he's the older one, then he's the lower number.
Right. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I got to count backwards. It's like aperture. I got to go the opposite direction. Yeah. So 16. So the current Dusk, it just tells me everything I need to know about him and his attitudes. And he says earlier, there were all these problems. I just let Demerzel take care of them all.
Yep.
So really, the writing is
the Empress
so good
right now.
Yeah, really. Yep. So, and Lee Pace.
Yeah.
How good
his facial expressions when he's like, I have to look happy right now, but I am furious.
And he extends out his hand and he's like, come on, darling. And she pauses for a second and he's like, get over here. And
he's about to force choke her.
Yeah, exactly. If he had force powers, he would have.
Yep.
So Did you notice Demerzel touch her little stone?
Is that
Yeah,
the
the
necklace
salt.
from, or
Mm-hmm.
is it a bracelet? I don't remember. It was some
Bracelet.
piece of jewelry from the goddesses, the triple
Yes,
goddesses.
exactly. Triple blessings. Yeah, that was that little stone when he had to walk the pattern
Mm-hmm.
in season 1.
Yeah.
So what are they signaling there? I don't know,
Yeah.
but it was a huge
Maybe she's
signal.
ready to go back to that motivation.
Interesting, right? And if she is to Empire as the second foundation is supposed to be to first, what is she? Is she doing some course correcting that we don't know about? Is this
Right.
whole Dominion thing like what? Like they are just shrouding her in so much mystery.
I like this. I like this.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on with it, but I like it.
Yeah, it's exactly. I'm like, keep feeding me clues. Keep feeding me clues. I'm super
Right.
excited. So, well, I was gonna say, did you pick up on the music in this scene?
No.
It was very somber and tragic. It was not triumphant and hey, we're getting married and we're gonna have royal parties and all this, but it was had a very tragic tonality to it. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Was this internal music or was this
No,
okay?
it is
I
not
was gonna say, I was
diegetic.
like, why is Day playing
Playing music.
Mozart's Requiem
That's right.
to his speech?
So yeah, some serious looks are exchanged between various players here, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think this is a pivotable. I can't
All
talk now.
right, now enough of
Moving
you with
on.
that. I do know somebody who knows what's going on though. It's
Yes.
Ober Mallow, and he enters the mystery ship and is confronted by strange construction. And then he encounters spacers who ask him, "Who are you? Why have you defiled the home swarm?"
Ooh, trippy. Hober's look on his face when he looks up, like, oh, I'm Hober Mallow. It was priceless. I
Yeah,
thought it was perfect.
I was discussing with Elysia how much I wish that Huber, the actor, played Matt from The Wheel of Time,
Oh, right. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's
You were
just
saying.
that energy. It's just like,
Right.
because Matt from The Wheel of Time is like a chaotic person who does not want to be the hero but keeps falling into it, and that's the energy that Hober has.
Okay. So, and we have screeners for a few episodes of Wheel of Time, so we can't
No
say anything.
spoilers.
No
No
spoilers.
spoilers.
Did you watch? Have you watched yet?
I have watched the first
Okay,
episode.
I have watched the first one too. No
We can't
spoilers.
even say if we liked it yet.
No.
So you'll have to tune in when it's embargo off.
Yes. So like I said before, huge mystery here. Spacers, new faction, major new development. And if this comes from the books, I have no idea where this comes from because it's not
I have
in the
no
core
idea.
stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's robot stuff. I don't know if it's something else. So if anybody happens to know that if spacers exist in other parts of Asimov's storytelling, write in because I'm really confused. I'm super interested,
Right.
but yeah, I have no idea how to frame this from the original work.
Right. So Salvor asks Harry about Makota Mesa, and Harry is troubled by mental interference. He tells her that the Mentalics are after the Radiant, and only Gaal knows where it is and what it looks like. Harry tells Salvor to find it. Gaal then gives Salvor a birthday fruit, and the two watch the beggar fly off. This was a pretty good con by Tellem, having the beggar fly off right after Harry was told off and is
Right.
panicking about the Radiant. It's pretty plausible that he would fly off to protect it, right?
Right. And yeah, the motivations, right? The illusions have to be grounded in real things.
My
So
question is, can you not make a second Prime Radiant? It's math, and is it because Yana is dead?
well, from what we know from all this upcoming flashback stuff, even the fact that they got a working prototype was a huge deal.
But they've had it for
So,
a long time. You tell me that Harry doesn't have a backup plan, like, oh, we fell out of the ship and the whole plan's just ruined now.
well, and it sat in Terminus in a crate on the shelf for a long time too, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. How destructible or indestructible is the Radiant?
I think Harry's got to have a backup plan. And here's another question. If someone takes it somewhere, Can you get it in the vault still, since it's in both places at the same time?
Yeah. Well, if you went into the vault and then took the Prime Radiant and operated it, does it superposition back to you in the vault then,
I
away
don't
from
know.
the?
I don't know. It's wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're telling us that it's standard quantum physics. Yeah, it's quantum physics. So they're saying that those rules as we know them apply to this thing. So I don't know how that works, because it's superposition means that it can be it's it's nowhere until somebody observes it, is what I think superposition means.
Okay.
But I got to be careful because I really don't have a grasp on it. I just know
Neither do
that
I.
it's
Maybe I'll do research on that for next week, or
that
maybe
would be dope. That'd be very
Marilyn will
cool.
do it.
And just on this scene, as you said, it's a con. It is, because the scene starts off with that warp perspective again.
Yeah.
So they're manipulating. That's signaling that Gaal and Salvor were manipulated in this. So
Yeah, and Harry really is just having a hard time here. He's like, his brain just isn't working.
right.
We then get a drone shot across the water and see Harry Seldon chained to 4 pillars with his head just above the water. Tellem taunts Harry and insists Gaal and Salvor will think he left. She tells Vanek not to leave until Harry is dead.
So Harry's a robot.
Maybe. I don't know. He could be. He probably is. They're probably not going to kill off this character, or they're going to have. I don't know, because he did look very drowned there.
What's the meme with Leonardo DiCaprio like pointing at the screen?
Oh, yeah.
That was me at the end of the episode completely, when they're panning up, when they're zooming up away from Harry in the water and he's floating there, and I'm like, he's a robot.
Right.
So
I get you. This isn't murder, by the way. It's not murder. It's not murder, by the way, because Tellem wouldn't kill one of her own.
Oh, right.
Boy, she is a bit of a mentalic supremacist, huh?
Completely. And she's not. She's very biased against non-metallics, to the point that, like, you guys murder your own. I'm not going to let you murder any of us. F off, right? And you've crossed. Yeah, like I'm going to. I don't know. She's very,
she goes, you study patterns. You wrote this here. You study patterns. You know what your kind does. Violence against any deviation from the majority. Well, guess who's the majority on this planet?
Exactly.
Is the Metallics, and they're taking out the only deviation from their majority.
Right.
So shut up, Tellenbaum. We don't like you.
She does not like Harry either. So it's mutual.
Yeah. Harry flashes back to his childhood on Helicon, where he observes the patterns of migrating animals. He stands in the middle of a stampede with his eyes closed and comes out unscathed. He tells his parents he followed the pattern, and his father hits him.
Right. So these were moon shrikes. These are the things that his father was studying. So check there.
I liked this idea of this like running start they have.
Right. So interesting, that his idea. I mean, he's actually willing to put himself on the line to test his theories.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. But he was confident, right? He was confident. Yeah. I'm going to walk away from this.
Right. So at a very early age, Harry is Harry. With this very strong ego sense.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so scary. If you're a parent, like watching your kid do that, are you kidding?
What does he say? Step away from the child. The child. What? Yeah. Dude. Anyway. Yeah. All right. I can't.
Yep. We flash forward to Harry's early career, where he gets scolded for pushing research that says all empires fall and that large groups have power to affect change. Dr. Yana Kine arrives and claims a spot in Harry's office. Yana is dismissive of psychohistory, but tells him they'll do wonderful things together. Sometime later on Helicon, Harry and Yana have a work conversation that turns into a courtship.
I love this line. Why do you want to know about my father?
Yeah.
That was very cute. She knew she was messing with him. So,
right.
Right.
And he's like, well, that's not what I meant. Yeah, I know. I'm being cute.
So the actor here who's playing Yana is Nimrat I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this. Kaur. Nimrat Kaur. She's again another very successful actor, and one of the things that I'm really appreciating about this season, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, is that Goyer's casting from a really wide net, and he's going out into the world and he's finding these actors, either new and sort of up and coming, say with Leah Harvey or I forget Gaal's actress. Anyway, or established powerhouses that we just in the American TV market just have not been exposed to, and that he's bringing them in. And I just love what he is doing and how he's running this production from that standpoint.
Yeah, she was great in this.
Yeah,
she was great. She lives to concur.
That's a nice way to live, right?
Yep. Hari sees Dr. Taj. Taj? Is that how we're saying this?
Tagged.
Right in. Hari sees Dr. Taj speaking with a mysterious person, then meets Yana to demonstrate a prototype of the Prime Radiant. We learn that Yana had been creating a visual device for Hari's theory. Yana gives Hari a necklace matching hers that announces she's pregnant.
The pendant is the shape of the vault.
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's good. That's good.
It's very, very vaulty.
Yeah. Also, I wrote here that it announces the pregnancy. That's not really what it does. It's I guess it kind of does, because it's built to give both heartbeats, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I was right.
Yeah.
You know what? Not correct in that one.
It's good enough.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yep.
This is too, this whole meeting in the stairwell, this mysterious hatted person and whatnot. Mm-hmm. It's all very film noir-y. This whole little vignette had a very distinctive style.
I liked it. I liked what they did here.
Okay.
Hari and Yana are offered professorships at Streeling University on Trantor to be more transparent to Empire. Dr. Taj tells him Empire owns everything they create, and hiding the Prime Radiant is not right. Yana tells Hari Empire is telling Dr. Taj to bring them the Prime Radiant or Selden. When Hari refuses to go to Streeling University, Yana tells him to hide the Prime Radiant very well.
So I mentioned this before. When the Prime Radiant is, when Dr. Taj leaves, Hari taps his desk and the Prime Radiant sort of folds up.
Yep.
So, again, we know that it can take other shapes. It doesn't have to be in this geometric form. So,
yeah. How did he end up at Streeling anyway after killing a very loyal servant of Empire?
Well, he was able to manipulate the story, wasn't he? He was able to have plausible deniability, and he manipulated the story. Right, I don't know how. I don't know what the story
we got caught in a stampede and she just didn't make it.
Well, she killed his wife, right? So maybe he played the innocent, like, oh, I don't know what happened. She was trying to blackmail us, and she, killed him by accident or whatever. So
but there's no like ship log that they both went off on the same ship. Trantor has records of everything.
Right, and he hacked the trigger lock. He hacked the car navigation system.
Fair enough.
So
he's a pretty good hacker. We learned.
Maybe out in Helicon, they're not. It's not an Empire facility in the sense that it has that highest level of security.
Right.
Couple of things here, really quick. Tucked up against the ribs is the best place to slide in a knife, is what Yana says. And if you recall the line that Dr. Selden, right, the Hari in the who's he what's it in the vault, says to Hober, you got to have a knife behind your back.
Right.
So again, really nice connective tissue here between stuff that Hari is doing.
Right.
And then just to say something about the books and what goes on Trantor, if you know, you know. So just a wink and a nod to the book readers about Trantor here. So
okay. All right, I'm buying it. Dr. Taj kidnaps Yana at gunpoint. Hari gets an alert on his matching necklace. Hari confronts Dr. Taj, who tells him to give her the Radiant and the car will take him to Yana. Hari takes control of the car and tells her he got into her data and knows Yana is dead already. Hari tells Dr. Taj the heartbeat necklace signal stopped shortly before she gave him an ultimatum. So yeah, I mean, it's very sad. It's very sad. Hari was very smart to not buy what she was saying, though. One
Right.
question I had, though, was would it have stopped if the necklace just got taken off?
I don't know. I don't know how the necklace works, so I just
Because
assumed
how
that
is he
he'd.
convinced that like she's not like been put into different clothes and had the necklace taken away? She's dead.
Right. Yeah, no, I guess we just have to take it. We have just to assume that it is
Yeah.
somehow, there's some
There's a
sort of
different
electronic.
alert. There's a different alert if it's like
Right.
on but the heart stopped, or if the maybe it's built for that so that you can take a shower with it off, but you'll know if something's wrong with the baby.
Right. Maybe there's like a subdermal implant or something like that
Right.
transmits to the pendant, and the pendant is just
Yeah, I
sort
don't
of
know.
a receiver thing. So
I don't know.
anyway,
Interesting. Dr. Taj pulls her gun out and tells Hari to give her the Prime Radiant, but Hari hacked the trigger lock. She says she didn't mean to let Yana die, but Hari calls her out for killing her while tied to a chair. The stampede comes and Hari holds them both in a safe spot. When Hari lets Dr. Taj go, she falls into the stampede.
there you go.
So ends the story of Dr. Taj.
Yeah, so it's the story of Dr. Taj. And I think what I found interesting from this whole thing was that Harry's plan and the Prime Radiant, all of that is all bound within his love for Yana and the death and the murder of his, child, his unborn child. So, it's a tragic story in that way, and this is very far from the original books.
Yeah.
In terms of the first three original books, very dry and very theoretical and all conversational, and in the show they're really grounding Harry's motivations deeply inside of this question of love. And and we're debating, how do you account for love within psychohistory?
Right. Yeah. Oof. That's pretty tricky, I gotta
Yeah,
say.
good stuff.
I gotta say, long enough later to grow a bad goatee, Hari has taken the position at Sterling University.
Don't give the VFX de-aging team a hard time about their fake goatee.
I thought the de-aging looked pretty good overall.
It wasn't bad. It
was, as far as de-aging goes, it was good.
Yeah.
The goatee was horrible.
they're the production value on this. Yeah, when it counts, they're spending their money in the right places, like with the ships and
Right.
planet views and things
Right.
like that, for sure.
The fish,
The goatees,
we can let go of the fish and the
Yes.
goatee. Yeah.
Sorry, we had to scrap we spent so much money on the scenes of the ships jumping in that we just had to buy a $4 rubber fish from the from the local novelty shop.
Yep. So Harry's taken the position at Sterling University and receives a book recommended by Yana. In the present, Hari is beginning to drown and has flashbacks of Yana. He goes still as the episode ends.
So this book is from Gorik Tarka of Kalda, and then, like I said at the top of it, this is this line of why the gods made wine came from this. So I don't know if they're seeding more stuff for us for later, or if they're just wrapping a bow around this, but it was nice.
I think probably more the latter, but I'm open to other things.
Yeah. One production note and one interesting detail note. There's a beam of light as they walk into there's kind of this overhead shot, and they walk in, and as the doors close behind them, it turns into this sort of almost beam of light that shoots forward. So like there's light behind the door closes, shadowing and narrowing the light. So it's this direct line. And it just really reminded me of when the Foundation ships jump in. There's this like very straight line of light that is there. But the other story note that I wanted to mention is the guy who walks in with Harry here and gives him the book. That's the spy who came with Gaal when she jumped in from her planet, which I'm blanking the name on now, and was there when she was arrested. And he talked to her a bunch about like, hey, if you want to live a nice life, just say that Harry's crazy. Yeah, same dude. Same dude.
Okay.
So
All right.
the Empire's been watching Harry for a while. So he's
Right.
got a minder. He's got a close minder. And
Sure
not
does.
only was the guy there, but he was the guy who brought Gaal, who escorted, not as traveled, was a fellow traveler. He was in the little krish next to her and chatted with her as they came onto Trantor.
Do you know who else has minders, David?
Who?
We do, because we have listener feedback.
Okay.
So we've got a few here.
Yeah.
First up, we have Dominic P via empire@thelorehounds.com, where you can send in your feedback. He says, Harry did in fact have a life partner. I think it's more probable that it was hard for him to love again when he's lost someone. That, coupled with his past with his father, being a father, and possibly having lost a child, I think he was afraid to love, not incapable of it. Well, we got our answer. Good job, Dominic. You could have scripted this episode. All right, Cincinnati Joe says, something that bugs me about the Magic Vault on Terminus. Like 200 years earlier, Harry somehow crafted this coffin ship that could transform into this massive structure with the force field, using tech that apparently no one in the Foundation even understood. Each time we see it, it gets more amazing. It could vaporize people, move them against their will, be bigger on the inside, replicate food for them like on Star Trek, and then dilate them as well.
Dilate
Oh, and it
time.
exists in superposition with the other virtual Harry. A dilated time, right? Who now magically has a human body, but that's another story. It's just so much. What do you think of the Magic Vault? If I recall correctly, the powers are mostly a show creation, as the book one just played recordings of Harry. Well, that's way more boring. Isaac Asimov.
The book one was literally, I believe, a vault, like a room inside of a room. And but of course, Asimov, when he wrote these, he didn't have examples of imagination of things that we could do, computing powers and technology. So the fact that you could have a hologram talking to you, I don't even think the book Harry was interactive. I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, book readers, but it was more of a recording.
Okay.
And one of the funny scenes or interesting things in the book is when they first realize that they're off course, is that the recording is talking about a bunch of stuff and they're all like, what? None of that happened. That was weird. What's going on? Oh crap. We're like off course.
Right. Okay. So, that's fun. That's fun.
Magic Vault powers. What do you think?
Oh, I'm unbothered by it. I'll be honest.
Okay.
And I think that it's plausible that Harry did not trust Empire and so did not make public a lot of his math that was behind a lot of this technology. How he manufactured it, I don't know. That's, I guess, a plot hole. I'm kind of just going with it because I think this show is more about the big ideas than it is the details. It's not The Expanse, right? It's not this hyper realistic what would happen if we had a fusion drive. It is more so what's a big idea of how do we make populations shift with psychics and whatnot.
Right.
So I think that's where I'm at. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief, but I see your criticism, Joe, that it is not tied up neatly.
Yeah, I also agree with the criticism, and I think I'm also with you in that I'm good with it. It's fine.
You're absolutely right, Joe. It's just I think that this show, it's just never going to be that kind of Expanse. Let's check all the boxes of what the science would do to your body if you went through space at certain speeds, because being asleep isn't going to help you if you're really going through space at hyper speed.
In the Expanse, to the point that the little point defense guns on the ships, when they fired, and there's like YouTube videos about this and stuff like that, you can see on the back of the gun, there's a little jet of flame. So every time the thing goes, there's a little from behind it, because the velocity, the energy of the bullet leaving the chamber would push the gun backwards, thus rotating the ship away from the force of the bullet. So they counter it by shooting a little force of jet out the back of it so that it stays stable, right? Two energies canceling each other out. That's that is in the VFX of The Expanse. Every gun battle of the ships, they have that kind of level of detail. This is not
Right.
that show.
No,
As you
exactly. And
said,
so
as you
that's
said.
just what I'm gonna get down to is I'm
Right.
willing to forgo it for the big ideas.
The vault coffin thing, though, is a pretty dope crib, as dope cribs go.
It is. It is.
Right?
It's four dimensional. I mean,
Replicating.
what more could you ask for? That's
That's
not a
right.
New York City apartment, I'll tell you that much.
No, you don't have to put your jeans in the oven. You don't have to use your oven as a closet.
Well, thanks, Joe. All right, next up is Marilyn Arpukila. She wrote in after episode 5, so keep in mind she's referencing that when she talks about the episode. This was an astonishing episode, all the more so because I heard that this is the shortest episode so far. How can that be when there was so much there? I felt that way
True.
this episode, honestly.
Yeah.
Just in case you don't remember, pun intended, the Lethe was a river of forgetfulness in ancient Greek underworld. Souls were supposed to drink from it in order to forget their past lives. An interesting choice for naming Harry's lethal disease, don't you think?
Ooh. So when I saw Marilyn in person, we were actually talking about this, and I don't remember. She somehow pulled this the name of this up, and she thought one of us had said it in one of our podcasts, but I don't think either of us have remembered.
Yeah, I didn't remember what it was called.
So good job, Marilyn, for pulling it out of the ether from however you got it. I don't know, but I think that's very cool that the show, especially episode 5, dealing with memory, that is Harry's terminal disease. Is a really
right.
This is what, just to slightly segue, not too far off, but regarding the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strike. This is what writers do. They don't just put words on paper. They go find stuff like this. They go figure out Josiah. That's a name of a Judaic king, and it represents this, and banyan tree that, and Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. This is what writers do. And when you subtract that from productions, you are making, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a food comparison, a French fries from one shop to another.
You're eating Stouffer's meatloaf.
There you go. As opposed to, grandma's home cooked, right? There's a difference. So anyway, rant over.
All right, she continues, thank you so much, John, for the Esther connection. It was super. Now I am waiting to see the Gilgamesh and Inanna storylines.
Nice. Gilgamesh. All right. Good call out.
We've
got Bhagavad Gita, so, they're pulling all of this sort of religious and philosophical and mythological stuff, so really, really dense layer cake.
Yeah. I think the question underlying the memory content, which has not been raised yet to my knowledge, is, are you still yourself if you don't have your memories? It's certainly something that anyone with Alzheimer's in their family history will wonder about from time to time. Absolutely. In my family history, I think about this all the time.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I watched my grandma forget who she was, and that's it. It is, who are you if you don't have your experiences?
That's true. I haven't had any direct relatives have it. I've seen it. I've been around it, but sort of tangentially. So yeah, I haven't watched it up close. It's really, it'd be hard to see that.
Yeah.
To watch somebody go through that.
Absolutely. So Marilyn continues, calling back to previous episodes. I think the reason why Demerzel trusts Belle so much is because the first loyalty for both of them is to Empire rather than to the Emperors. Well, I guess it's still Empire in this universe, but I see your distinction, Marilyn, and I don't know how else to make that distinction.
The institution versus the man.
Right.
The man is the institution, but the institution spans more than one individual of more than one exponent. Right. It's the totality of the exponents.
Mm-hmm. She says, I think she's working to erode this day in order to foil his plan for biological succession and his well-hung memory. She joined the
nice
the end of semester talk.
Can I slow clap that one?
Which he would see as a threat to Empire and to the intentions of the first Cleon, who it seems she did have feelings for. And I think that Day and Sareth were made for each other and deserve each other. Oh, do you? I don't know if I agree with that. Deserve. Maybe they were made for each other, but boy, I think Sareth has a bit more moral than Day in my eyes right now.
But to what ends is Sareth going to go? And I mean, I think she's on a mission she's on a revenge adjacent mission.
Sure.
Right. Sure. And even though she's saying, what is her line? Something about your your requests are obligations or what have you. I don't know
Yeah.
that that's true. I don't know that
Well,
she
yeah.
believes that,
Yeah.
right?
Good question.
Is
Is she
she,
just doing that to win the people so she can overthrow the empire? I don't know.
yeah, and so for Day and Sareth, they're two young people, right? Sure, that's more of a match than Grandpa and
Right.
Sareth, right?
Right.
So yeah,
Interesting. She continues, speaking of the first Cleon, I think that Dawn and Dusk worship him in the same way the Foundation worships Harry. Each founder has become the personification of the ideals and goals that each group is focusing on.
yeah.
If Dawn, Day, and Dusk together are all one personification of the first Cleon, then why wouldn't they each have approximately 1/3 of his memory? Good question. I think she means the length here, like the
Right.
amount of memory here.
What do we call them? The little, the little seed kernels of memory things that they were
Right.
measuring. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but a Dusk should be more up at the 200 number, and a third, a third, a third. Yeah. Interesting.
Right. Right.
But I do like this twinning or this paralleling between that they're doing all over the show of Foundation and Empire and the little things. Oh, robots, clones, all of this stuff. It's good.
Right. She continues, Harry's inability to hear the whispers put me in mind of Ged and Cobb in Earthsea. Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Check out our Earthsea coverage.
Yep. We'll be resuming in September with Tahanu. Then she says, as long as I'm counting correctly, it seems to me now that there are 3 prime radiants, one on Terminus, one on Una's world, and one on the Beggar. Does it matter if one gets broken? Good question. I was thinking that before. It seems to me that not having a second foundation is the more serious problem. Also, I think that there are sighted folks on Trantor already keeping their culture caught up on the details about Empire. Possibly the guard working for Sareth is one of them. Oh, that's a good theory. That's a good theory.
See, yeah, the visual language between Ignis and Trantor. So yeah, I totally am on board with that. I think that's interesting too. That I wouldn't put it past Tellem to have a spy network. I think that would be very smart of her.
She lives to spy.
Yeah,
just like Yana lived to concur.
But I think it's confirmed now that there's only one prime radiant that's superpositioned.
Right. So, and I think it's only in 2 places. I don't think that Una's world has a prime radiant. I think that's a different entity. I think he was sent there.
But then and the question is what was in the prime radiant that was able to talk to Harry to get him to go to Una's world and then encounter it again as
a lot of mysteries.
On Una's world.
A lot of mysteries here. But Marilyn leaves us with a question. How many cataphils can dance in the head of a Cleon? I will answer fewer than they want to.
Oh, very good. That is a very pragmatic answer.
Well, thanks, Marilyn, for writing in. That was a fun feedback. Jordan M writes in, love all your podcasts, but holy FSM. Do you know what this means?
No, I don't know what FSM means.
I don't either. Write in. Yeah. Get over the cussing and Foundation. I don't think I would have even noticed if it weren't for your seeming incessant whining about it. Sorry, it just struck a nerve. In happier news, you guys rock, and thanks for all the amazing content. This was some whiplash in this email.
Thanks, Jordan.
It was like, love you, but you suck. But we love you.
Well checked. Well
fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. It's a compliment sandwich. I just realized that's what it is.
Yes, it is. You're right.
Look at that.
Perfect sandwich formulation. In caps, very Jordan. Short. It was it was a what are those sliders? It was a tiny little sandwich.
Right. Well, thank you, Jordan, for the sandwich. It was delicious. Kim M writes in via the contact form at thelorehounds.com. Hi, Lorehounds. I hope this is the correct way to contact you about Foundation. It is. Because you can go to thelorehounds.com or thelorehounds.com/contact and do the same thing as Kim M did. First, though, I want to tell you both how much I enjoy your podcast. I'm also a fellow nerd and love all the same movies, shows, and games. Well, great to have you, Kim. Welcome aboard. You inspired me to start a book that is full of drawings, diagrams, and words about House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings of Power, Silo, and now Foundation. Wow. I understand the worlds much better now, which makes them more enjoyable. I'm an artist and I'm currently doing some world building of my own, and I don't know if I would have started on this journey without these podcasts. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate both of you and all your cool guests and fellow podcasters. Wow, this is such a lovely email.
See,
And
Jordan, we're
yeah,
lovable.
yeah.
No matter our whining.
Yeah. Well, Kim, that's great to hear, and I hope that you'll share on the Discord some of your art. That would be great to see.
Yeah. And good luck with your world building. I don't know
Yeah.
what is it just art focused, or if there's some
Yeah.
gaming thing in here?
Right.
That's
Right.
gamers talk about world building when
Yep.
we're
Yep.
running, stuff like
That
that.
writers
So,
do it. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
All
exactly.
these.
Very
Yep.
cool.
Very cool.
Look, John, we're inspirational.
Wow.
How nice. And we do have a lovely family of podcasters to
Absolutely.
podcast with.
So Kim continues, anyway, I have a statement about Foundation. I'm not sure if it's a question. Seems to me Demerzel is more Empire than the actual Empire. She knows all about the secrets and history. She's been there the entire time for the first Cleon, and she clearly has an agenda of her own. Dawn, day, and dusk do whatever she says, and it seems to me she can get them to do whatever she wants in a subtle way. Or not so subtle, I would say.
In not so subtle ways.
I think she's way more powerful than we know. Maybe I'll get some useless internet points for that.
We got plenty of useless internet
and
points
listen,
to hand out.
They are not useless. They are great for your ego. She continues, one more thing, and this relates to what you said about in the latest podcast about Hari making a mistake by not including love, dumb, human emotions, hubris into his equation, which I agree with, and it's most evident with his murder. Hari and Raish both knew Gaal had the capability to sense danger and knew when something big was going to happen. How did they overlook that fact before the murder? Best, Kim. Did they know that? That's my question. Do we? I maybe I need to go back and watch the first couple episodes of season 1.
I think there are multiple times where Gaal, like before the Starbridge fell, certainly when before the murder took place.
Right.
I think there was something else. I think so. I'm more perplexed the fact that Hari missed the fact that they were dating, I guess you could say, as opposed to Gale's prescience, because Gaal didn't even know that she was prescient, but she would have these feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
And in both cases, though, the way that I'm sort of looking at understanding Hari is that in his hubris and his big-mindedness, and I think you pointed this out earlier, he's got a lot to think of. He had to make a super sweet coffin vault magic box cube to send his ashes to Terminus home.
He's got a lot going on.
He had a lot going on. And, at some level, he doesn't look, he's not looking down at some of those details.
Right.
So that's the only way that I can kind of square that circle.
Yeah, I think that's right. But they probably should have suspected something going on. But I do think that Hari saw Gaal as a little bit disposable at the beginning. I think he kind of dismissed her as, okay, she's good at math. She'll make a good leader of this first generation of Foundationers. That's it.
Right.
Not that she was as smart as him, not that she could, have any special abilities. And so I think that the dismissiveness of Hari towards Gaal bit him in the butt.
Yep. That's exactly. Yeah. I think that's exactly right. He's just too above it. Yeah. He thinks he's got Gale's number. Right. So.
Yep. Well, thanks again for writing in, Kim. Lovely to hear from you. I hope you're writing again. David.
John.
It's time for our show notes.
Yes. Wrapping it up.
Hit me with what's going on.
We have a lot of Dune about to go on.
A lot of Dune.
A lot of Dune.
From every feed, almost.
Basically, because Steve and Anthony are affiliates over at Properly Howard Movie Reviews, are about to release the third podcast in their season of covering remake movies. And they're covering the 2021 Villeneuve Dune Part 1. And we get to be on it. You, me, and Elysia, in fact.
Yeah.
So that's coming out on Monday, the 21st. And if you haven't heard one of these podcasts with Properly Howard, you should definitely check it out. It is proper pop culture nonsense. It is fun. They had a podcast that last week about White Men Can't Jump, the 2023
I listened to it today a bit.
Did you?
And the Elvis banter really got me. I was laughing a lot about it.
Right. It's so good. And the thing is, you don't have to have seen the movie. I don't even think I've seen either White Men
Yeah,
Can't
me
Jump
either.
movies.
Me either.
And it's just fun to listen to Steve and Anthony have a good time talking about movies. Next up after this is going to be the 2014 RoboCop remake. Now, I loved the original RoboCop. That was awesome. So I'm looking forward to that episode. They've got 2, 4, 6, about six or seven more movies after that they're covering. So their season is well under steam. And so link in the show notes, but definitely go subscribe to Properly Howard Movie Review because it's a hoot. Elysia over on We'll Shift Dust. She's pivoted her Silo podcast into a Dune podcast now. It's We'll Shift Dust does Dune. And her and her co-host Luke are doing a big 360 galaxy brain on Dune, on documentaries of Dune, books, the different books. It's not a book club thing. The movies, video games, so that, when the Villeneuve Part 2 movie comes out later this year, if you've been following along, you will have a really good perspective on who Frank Herbert was, what these stories are about, how they got made, how some of them didn't get made. So it's very cool. So they dropped their first episode already, kind of laying out the terrain that they're going to be covering. And the second one should be coming out, I think, this week. I think sometime right around when this is coming out. So
yeah, it's cool.
It's very good stuff. So check it out. We'll Shift Dust does Dune. And then she's running her book club too. And they're reading all three of the Silo books, We'll Shift Dust. And that's a Patreon book club. So check it out.
Her Patreon, to be clear.
Yes, her Patreon.
We're not involved in that.
Their Patreon. Whose Patreon? Their Patreon. Her Patreon. We'll Shift Dust not at Patreon. Patreon.com/We'll Shift Dust. Link in the show notes. You'll figure it out. John, what do we have going on? We've got too much going on.
We've got too much, but it's all good stuff. We've got this weekly. We've got Ahsoka coming up next week weekly. We've already done 2 prep podcasts for that to recap the animated adventures of Ahsoka. So check out our feed for that. There's also a new Star Wars feed if you want one exclusively for Star Wars, if you're into the theming. And so that'll be on there as well. We also have the Wheel of Time coming imminently. Yep. And we are recording our first episode very soon because we have screeners. So we're going to have those out day and date as well. That's going to be dropping on Fridays starting September 1st. Then you've got plenty of monthly stuff. You've got Silmarillion stories. The Lorehounds play Skyrim. Brandon and I are going to be talking about that adventure through Tamriel. Tolkien soup kind of deal, but we have a great time with that. I've put hundreds of hours into Skyrim, and I could talk about it for an hour, no problem.
Very cool. We should also mention too that we're up on YouTube now, so if you're a YouTube person, you can listen to all of our podcasts there. And if you're a Spotify person and you're a subscriber, you can now also cross-connect your Spotify to your Patreon and get your ad-free feeds through Spotify. You couldn't do that before. There was a technical thing, and
I had no idea about this. Nobody's ever asked even. Nobody's ever been like, how do I get this on Spotify? Turns out you couldn't, so I'm glad you didn't ask.
Very good, because we wouldn't have had an answer. But now, guess what? You can connect them. So, listen wherever. But I think those two things are just nice additions. So, should we thank our Patreon subscribers?
I was going to say, speaking of, I had a segue prepped. We had the ad free on Spotify. I was going to segue in. Speaking of subscribers, we do have a Patreon.
We're tired. We're getting
episodes
punchy, and we're not on our humor game here.
Right. So that's where you get ad-free episodes, early access to a lot of our content, and bonus episodes like Second Breakfast and Shireside Chats. I'm not even saying my own show right. Shireside Chats. It doesn't have FDR as its host. It has me. Anyway, we like to thank our lore masters, our top tier patrons every podcast. And those are Samartian, Cyrus, Mark H, Michael G, Michelle E, David W, Brian P, Nick W, SC, Peter OH, Bettina W, Adam S, Nancy M, Lavinia T, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Eric F, Matthew M, Sarah M, DJ Miwa, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Laura G, Deadeye Jedi Bob, and Nathan T. Everyone
Thank
on
you,
this
everyone.
list has helped us hire more spacers to get us through these podcasts a little faster.
Right.
So, but really, it does help us. It lets us devote resources and time to making these podcasts better, to firing off requests for screeners and getting things prepped so that things drop day and date. It's all part of it. So, thank you so much for supporting us and helping us make this happen.
Absolutely. All right, John. Well, we're just in under 2 hours, so hey, not bad for a packed episode of Foundation.
I know. We're only twice the length of the actual episode.
It's good. It's dense material.
There you go. Very cool. Well, I will see you for episode 7.
Ciao.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.